It is Tu Bishvat, and therefore I wish to mention briefly as follows. One is not required to eat any particular food on Tu Bishvat. There is no miswa, there is no hova, there is no inyan to eat dried figs from Turkey. That's where 99% of the, or maybe 98% of the dried figs in Israel at least come from. I think probably around the world it's the same. Or any other fruit for that matter. It's perfectly all right to do so. But there is no requirement to do so. This whole concept of creating a special ceremony related to Tu Bishvat is a fairly recent idea that goes back something like 400 or perhaps maybe just a little bit more than that, 400 years. It was invented by certain Mekubalim, certain Kabbalists around that time. The reason it became popular and caught on is that it was a way, albeit a completely contrived and strained way, but a way of connecting to Eretz Yisrael by eating the Shiv'at HaMinim, the various fruits and types of food that Eretz Yisrael is known for, is famous for, as the Torah itself describes. And that really is how the whole thing began. There is nothing much more to be said about it, which is why, if one looks in the Talmud, in the Rambam, in Rashi, in any of our classical sources, you will find nothing at all along these lines. But as happens not infrequently, the common people pick up on the less important and less significant things, and disregard the more important things. So it's not a bad idea to connect to Eretz Yisrael, but that really is something we should be doing every day of the year, every minute of the day, not necessarily once a year on Tu Bishvat by eating a fig or a dried mango or something like that. That's what I wanted to mention. So if anyone's looking in the Rambam, where the Rambam writes about Tu Bishvat, the answer is only in the simple and halachic context of explaining how you count the years of a tree, for example, that if for purposes of orla and for other purposes. So let's say you planted a tree 6 months ago. On Tu Bishvat, which is the new year for trees. Why? Because in some ways it's still winter, but it's also hints of spring already in the air. The very impressive almond tree next to my house is in full bloom, and as it is all over the countryside, you see the almond trees all over the country in full bloom, very beautiful. So this is the beginning of the Hithadshut, the renewal of the agricultural cycle in some ways, at least with regards to trees. So this day is the beginning of the new year when it comes to counting years for such purposes, and that's all there is to be said about Tu Bishvat, really. Everything else to do with Eretz Yisrael, well, there are many more important things, such as destroying the enemy, driving them out of the country, filling the country with Jews, filling the country with Bethei Midrash, filling the country with a true Jewish Torah-based culture and civilization. These are the important things that we should be discussing, rather than whether the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, who says that if you have before you, shall we say, a fig and which is one of those species that is associated with Eretz Yisrael, and an orange, you should first make the bracha on and eat from the fig before you partake from the orange, because it is min shiv'ah. It is one of the 7 species associated with Eretz Yisrael. So says Rabbi Yehuda, and so many Rishonim are posek. The Rambam is posek like Chachamim, that you make the bracha alez mehen sheyirseh, on amina haviv, whatever you prefer. If you prefer an orange, start eating the orange. If you prefer the fig, begin with the fig. So this is a big discussion, I have noted, amongst certain Rabbanim this time of year, and whether the original minhag amongst the Sfaradim 500 years ago was like the Rambam or like the other Rishonim or not, and whether the Ben Ish Chai was correct in stressing that everyone should be noheg, not like the Rambam, or yes or no. These are all like any other question, interesting and important questions. They can be studied, and one can also reach conclusions regarding such things. But the truth is there are many more important questions which pertain to Eretz Yisrael and Am Yisrael in general.